Hello, it's Michael Cridland here, taking a walk around the fields next to my home in West Camp, St. Athan, on Llantwit Major, just outside of Llantwit Major. It's a rather large field. Usually it has either corn or maize here, but this year it's going to be farrow. What you see again in front of you is what I call the haunted copse, a little woodland that is actually a preserve. There was a preservation order slapped on it, so they couldn't do anything with it. They couldn't cut it down. Just walk along here. It's about maybe 100 meters. So we walk along. So I apologise if it's shaking a bit. It's actually several fields. Actually, this field's very rocky. I'm surprised they can grow anything in it. The hills you see beyond the woods is actually across the Bristol Channel, and that's Exmoor. Straight ahead, I think that's Porlock. For those of you who are familiar with the Lorna Doone romance, figures in the first chapter. Actually, it could be Minehead. For this walk, even though it's very warm today, wearing jeans and good walking shoes. Actually, I don't think this is grass at all. In the distance there, you can see a pillbox dating back to the Second World War. This is and was a military base. RAF St. Athan. Llantwit was bombed during the war, mainly because of the base, accidentally actually. As you can see the fields where the copse is, and you can see the sea, I think. It's actually a strange place to put a billbox. I can't think what it would have been used for. The road there, that's the main road, that's the bypass. In the scheme of things, a relatively new road. Extremely lucky to live out here where there's lots of places to go. Here it is. There's a gentleman walking behind me with a hat on, which is what I should have on actually. This is the inside. Some nasty old graffiti. And a Welsh flag. That's actually new. I didn't see that the last time I was around here. So I don't know whether somebody's been in here or not. We can. There he is. It's really good for exercise, especially this time with our lockdown rules. You can walk and you get that fear of breaking the law. Probably luckier than some of my relatives who lived in the middle of the city. Cardiff, that is. There we go. Oh, excuse me. Not really quite sure what it means when it says bring them on camera. Here we go. Moving towards the beach. Not a popular beach as it's a rocky, pebbly, not the one that people flock to. I was here the day before yesterday, and in the field that we're coming up to, there were two gentlemen. At least I think they were two men. My eyesight not being what it was. They seemed to have some electronic gadgetry. Working. Sat in chairs. I'm not sure what they were doing. Just bear with me. Here we are. One of the other things that this area is famous for is the home of Llantwit Major, Edward Williams, a stonemason and probably the person that invented a lot of what we consider to be Welsh culture, though perhaps that's rather unfair. I think he was basing on what he found in the great houses. There's manuscripts that he copied, so I think a forger is probably not a fair description. In fact, the two St. Illtyd's Church, which is on the site of what is considered the oldest school or college in Britain, which I think is born out of some of the early lives of the saints dating from the 6th century, is probably accurate. Llantwit actually dug up a couple of stones that must have been used at the churches, which would have been made of wattle and daub. Dedicated to a king by the name of Holt, in modern Welsh, Howell, I think. Probably a local ruler of the kingdom of Glywysing. What we refer to as Glamorgan was several ancient petty kingdoms. Where we are, Glywysing, Gwent, was united by Morgan Hen in the 10th century, and that's where the name Glamorgan comes from, Gwlad Morgan, or Morgannwg. As being Cardiff born, I'm a son of Morgan, ap Morgan. In fact, his kingdom remained outside of Hywel Dda's United Kingdom of Wales. An interesting history. For those who are fans of Doctor Who, some scenes, of the area may seem familiar. Some of it actually appeared in the finale of the current series of Doctor Who. The opening scene was taken from the boys' village, which is just across the way there, in that direction. A rather large field, actually. You can imagine YOLO wandering around these fields. Interesting enough, there was a chap by the name of Gareth Thomas, I think, that was given a talk on a YOLO at the Llantwit Hall just before the lockdown. He'd written a book on him, and an interesting book. But I hadn't realised that his mother was a Matthew. Of course, the Matthew family of Llandaff were a prominent Welsh part of the Welsh gentry in Glamorgan. They held several manors in the Cardiff area, including Caira, or possibly Swelden, where I grew up. They were I think during the War of the Roses they were Yorkists. I think they changed sides when Henry Tudor claimed his inheritance. but I believe they were descendants of the last native rulers of Glamorgan, Iestyn ap Gwynedd, who was overthrown by who was the Norman lord of this local manor, one Fitzhamon, Robert Fitzhamon. Part of what they call the legend of the 12 knights that landed here and began the conquest of the old kingdom of Morgannwg. Though Iestyn's feast, I think, was supposed to be at Dinas Powys, which of course is about 10 miles away from here. And here we come. Oh, I see that gentleman's walking across the field there. I might do the same. Here we are. In the background you can see the tower, and those for you who did watch the finale Doctor Who would recognise possibly the top of it, which is Aberthaw Power Station, which is, I believe, closed now. Coal burning station. It was the last couple of years, it was only part-time. In fact, I have a lot of friends here who are retired who worked there. Over right to the other side there, you can see St Athan, RAF St Athan, formerly RAF St Athan. Now it's MOD St Athan, and where Aston Martin builds their cars. It's also the place where the Bowens go to die, the Bowens graveyard. Since I've been off work, unfortunately, my train usually passes by and you usually see all the jets lining up, ready to be scrapped. In fact, at Primark to us locals, I met one gentleman that actually worked there who was telling me about breaking up the jets. Now the other tower you can see in the distance there is the Lafarge cement works. There's been quarried stones. It's been a quarry for centuries. In fact, there you'll see a local, the remains of a 19th century limes work. You know, I never realised how big this field is. Large. Oh God, depressing. You can just see in a couple of years there's will be nothing but houses, those cornflake packet houses they build in these days. This area is a fabulous history, most of it unwritten. The records of of the kingdom of Glamorgan, Morgannwg, has so little. I think, as far as the rulers are concerned, all we have are names. It's up to novelists to fill the gaps. Now, talking of that, novelists, I think many people will have seen, or not, Bernard Cornwell's Last Kingdom, and the series that's on Netflix. It's enjoyable entertainment. But quite flawed, actually. Based on Cornwell's books, The Pagan Lord and The Empty Throne. Now, The Empty Throne gives a whole chapter, chapter 9, if you're interested, on Hywel, who of course was known Hywel the Good and the Lawgiver. He codified Welsh law, which was actually quite ahead of its time, quite progressive, something I don't think we celebrate. Now, that's a figure we don't celebrate as much as we should. A great king, and I do highly recommend you, instead of basing what you know about Hywel from the series, is to read the chapter concerning Hywel, and I give Bernard Cornwell his due. He obviously researched it, and a very sympathetic and I don't know, good account. I'm sure that somebody on here might say otherwise, but the problem with the series was that Hywel was, I think, presented as very anti-English, anti-Saxon, when Hywel was actually a great admirer of Alfred the Great, and his attempts at unifying the warring Saxon and Jute and Anglo kingdoms into what would become England. But it's a very sympathetic account, and very his protagonist Uhtred obviously saw Hywel as one of the two great kings that he knew in his life for what they did. And I do commend Bernard Cornwell for his research on that. Hywel would have been a contemporary of Morgan Hen, Morgan the Old, a figure who I'm ashamed to say we have so little knowledge of, but himself a unifier. It's an interesting thing to say that the Vikings, the Norse, did not settle Wales the way they did Ireland. Though obviously there are place names in Wales which obviously bear a Norse influence. Swansea, of course, being the main, and even the area of Cardiff where I grew up, Ely, obviously an example of Norse influence. It was quite possible that they probably had trading posts that they set up in South Wales, maybe with the permission of the local rulers, you know. And the Welsh warriors were no pushovers, that's for sure. sure where that guy went through. One thing that I always thought sad of living in 20 years in the States, that Wales didn't have a higher profile than it deserved. I remember jokingly telling some friends that the name itself wasn't taken from Amerigo Vespucci, but from the man in charge of customs in Bristol during the time of John Cabot, Richard ap Merrick, who was one of those who financed, provided financing for John Cabot's first expedition to North America in 1497. I'm not sure where that guy went, actually. There must be a turnstile somewhere. Ah, here we go. Here it is. Or is it? No. You know, he may not have gone through an official one. Maybe he disappeared. Well, I'm not sure where he went. Perhaps he's here. No, actually not. This is definitely not the way I wanted to go, so I think I'm going to something tells me, I don't think he went this way, but he did. I was sort of walking across here. There's trees. It's not exactly which way I wanted to go, but let myself get distracted. he must have walked down here. Well, as we progress along this field, it's not exactly what I wanted to do, to be honest. Must be almost 100 acres, I think. I don't know what the heck that guy went. It's almost like he's disappeared. Well, I think that you get a general view. If it continued that way, you would have come down to the beach and the sea view. So we'll walk along here. Here, but strange. Strange. He was walking behind me. And he walked across this field. Maybe he was a figment of my imagination. And there's the road. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little jaunt, not the way I wanted to turn out, but I'll probably do this tomorrow, and instead of following somebody who I assume was walking through a path, continue the way that I'd planned to. Is that him up there? Walk along that road, that's for sure. Okay, well, I'm going to call this a failed one and carry on.